Hey there, folks. Yes, welcome back to another episode of Refuse to Fail. Same podcast, same quality guests, different name, new logo, good heart, good stories, always going to be at the forefront, and we're going to go from here. Today, I'm joined by a really interesting guest because, as I said when I first made this podcast, it's not only about athletes, it's not about the people we see on pitches, on tracks, in pools, it's about people that work in the world of sport. I'm joined today, 12-year motorsport photographer. He's featured in some of the greatest magazines, according to that, like Autosport, Sports Illustrated. He was 2019 Motorsport Photographer of the Year. Jamey Price, Jamey Price photo, as you can see nicely there. How are you, sir? Thank you for giving up your time today.
I'm great. How are you, Sam?
I'm surviving and thriving, is how I like to say. It's a Monday. We're getting podcast recorded. I'm having a great time. I'm really looking forward to this because you have what I consider to be one of the coolest jobs in the world. You are a paid photographer of motor cars.
It's not bad. I'm thankful that somebody's got to do it, so it might as well be me.
Hey, if you ever need a guy to come along and literally hold the bags, let me know. I'll be there.
All right, cool.
I'll be there. We must have to catch up or something because I love Le Mans. I've got a lot of Le Mans on my belt. So if you're ever there, you have to let me know and we can I can pay you in a beer.
Every year I'm there.
Start this year, centenary year. There's a beer with your name on it at my campsite.
Deal. I love it. I will be there.
Centenary year. We're lucky to get tickets. Have you seen?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. It's gonna be. I mean, I'm outside the little blue door. There is pretty much half the teams that are going to be running at Le Mans and a bunch of the drivers, and seeing the cars in the flesh for the first time. The new GTP cars, which is basically the LMDH for hypercar and Le Mans and World Endurance Championship. I'm just so excited. It's going to be amazing.
I'm so jealous. I was about to ask you exactly that. You're one of the first people getting to see the cars. This is the golden age of endurance racing that people have been pining for years. We almost got close to it in 2015. It feels like it's now really happening. How's the atmosphere? Because listeners, for what you don't know, as the time of recording this, Jamey's joining us from the Daytona 24 the week before in the build-up. He's there in the media center now at track. How is it there? How's the atmosphere? Does it feel different this year? There we go. For the YouTube watchers, he's just showing you the media center.
Yep. No, it feels amazing. The atmosphere. I mean, so we just did our testing weekend, which we call Roar. It's kind of like World Endurance Championships prologue. And the atmosphere, like there were so many fans and there's just so much energy here. You can feel the energy in the garages and the teams, and there's just, it feels different. It definitely feels different. And just to be able to see the cars and hear the cars and have all this new stuff, like it is a golden age of sports car racing again. Like we've had a little bit of not a dip, but there was years where it just feels, especially during COVID, where we had, reduced car numbers and fields, and just to have so much manufacturer involvement back in the sport is just fantastic. Like it's a high watermark for all of us to have, and there's more manufacturers coming. Like I don't even think we've seen the last of the entries, for people that want to build cars. I've heard McLaren's interested in one. I could see Mercedes doing one. There's just, I know Alpine is interested in doing a hypercar. So there's just a lot of really cool, groundswell within racing, and to have all of it just sitting in one paddock outside there with the new GT cars and the new prototypes is just really special.
I know, and like you say, there's so many names on there, especially with, you've got Max taking a great interest in the virtual, so you have to admire the actual racing is on Red Bull's radar as well. So
yep.
And like we say, if these first couple of years go really well with all these names, it's only going to attract more. And when there's more players, everybody wins. That's how I feel.
Yep, everybody wins.
So we have to start with the quick fires. I could sit here and talk to you about Le Mans all day and then forget that we're recording the podcast. This is I'm a rugby kid by body type. I'm a motorsports fan by passion. So
I love
it. So quick fire questions. This is how my wonderful listeners get to know a little bit about you, and then if you have a few questionable ones, you might get a few tweets about it, but it'll be nothing to work back at. So simple, off the top of your dome, this or that. So, for example, nice easy one to get you started. As an endurance racing photographer, I probably know the answer to this one already, but a cup of tea or a cup of coffee?
Neither. I don't like caffeine during an endurance race, but if I had to choose one, I'd take coffee.
Nice. What's the secret then if there's no caffeine?
Water. Hydrate.
Really?
Yeah. Caffeine is a really horrible thing during an endurance race, because once you start that drip, you have to keep it going because you can't drop. If you get to a point where you've started the caffeine and you feel the buzz and you feel awake, eventually that's going to wear off, and you can't keep it going for 36 hours. Like, it doesn't work like that. Your body just gets to the point where you can't keep pushing it up and up and up and up, and then you will crash. And every time I've gone to an endurance race and had caffeine, I feel worse at the end of it than I do when I go to an endurance race and just drink water and have like healthy snacks and keep my body running, because it's really, really hard on your body.
So the trial tribulation of barbecues and beers is not the way forward.
If you were going to sleep at all during the day and you just treat it as a normal day out, then it's fine. But for those of us that are up for the entire thing with maybe like a short nap somewhere along the way, it is I usually avoid caffeine.
Fair play.
But yeah,
okay.
That was a long answer to that one.
But no, is what we need is that. So if you had to choose between a relaxing night, would you choose a series or would you choose a movie?
Movie.
Nice. Okay, if you got to choose, would you rather watch racing in the rain or in the dry?
Rain.
I think as every motorsport fan wants to see a nice little spanner thrown in the works.
Yep.
Okay, you're driving to an event or you're just driving for just in the day. Are you more likely to go radio, podcast, or a playlist?
Playlist, probably.
Nice. We'll have to ask you about the music later. Okay, socks and sliders. So your flip-flops and wearing socks. Is that socially acceptable, yes or no?
No.
I think that must be a European thing because I'm guilty of it all the time. Okay, you're trying to get something organized with a friend or the partner. Are you going more likely to FaceTime them, or are you going to text and just let that conversation drag on?
Depends on the person, but I guess with my wife, probably if it's something serious, FaceTime, but other than that, text. Yeah.
I think that's the common answer. Right, sweet or salted popcorn for a movie?
Ooh. Salty, I guess. Yeah.
Fair play. Okay, if you had to get rid of one tomorrow, Twitter or Instagram?
Twitter.
Yeah, I think everybody agrees.
Twitter
we can
sucks.
do without Twitter, really. Yeah. Okay, if you could live in one universe, would you rather live in the Star Wars universe or the Lord of the Rings universe?
Star Wars.
Everybody likes lightsabers.
Yeah. And traveling at light speed. That's way cooler than having to ride by horse, like, somewhere that you don't know where you're going.
I love it. Jamey, you're a very efficient man, and I have a lot of respect for that. What is your go-to Disney film?
Ooh. Lion King.
Nice. That is the same answer as another guest, actually, that was recording earlier, so it'll be interesting to see how many times we get that one. Do you have a favorite quote that you can sort of rattle off your head?
Oh, Lord. I feel the need for speed.
I love that.
I'm a big Top Gun fan, but I know it's super cliche.
If it's a quote that you can rattle off the head, then you're doing well.
Yeah.
Right. Your go-to fast food outlet if you're late night and you're just thinking you need something.
You wouldn't have it in England and Scotland, but Chick-fil-A is pretty awesome over here. I love Chick-fil-A. Their spicy chicken sandwich is pretty good, and then there's another one called Bojangles, which is really only in the South. So the southeast part of the United States, which would be North Virginia a little bit, but North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. It's kind of similar fried chicken stuff. It's good.
I love it. I really want to try Chick-fil-A. It's on my list.
Yeah.
I've had Wendy's and I've had Popeyes. I've never had In-N-Out. I went to LA and never got In-N-Out.
In-N-Out is really overrated. Like, their burgers are okay. Their fries are abysmal. They're horrible.
Really?
They're terrible. Trash. Like, go to In-N-Out and get a burger, and then go across the street to Wendy's or Burger King and get their fries, because the fries from In-N-Out are like it's like just taking a potato, cutting it up, and then just putting it to you on a plate. They're horrible.
Oh, see, this is why I need to do Sebring, and I need you with me, so I know
Let's
what
do
to do. That's on the bucket list. That's actually.
But they
Is
don't
there
even
one?
actually they don't even have In-N-Outs. It's only California and I think Texas now. But
Oh.
it's only it's a California thing. So when everybody goes to California for a race, we'll all go to In-N-Out because it's California and it's pretty much it's like McDonald's. Like it's like going to McDonald's anywhere else.
Let's do it. We'll find some way for somebody to source an in-person podcast, and we'll have
All
an
right.
excuse to do it.
Cool.
This is the dream when I made the podcast. I just want people to pay me to go around, just tick off bucket list items in the name of work. Okay, right. What do we have left? What is your favorite racetrack of all time?
Ooh. You know, I was actually watching videos last night from Macau. I've done Macau a couple times as a photographer. I've done it 5 or 6 times, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty
Wow.
special. It's like this. It's like a Monaco, but smaller and faster and tighter. Like it's wild. As a photographer, it's wild. But Monaco is pretty special. Le Mans is pretty special. I love Long Beach a lot. There's some good ones. I love street circuits.
Good. I loved watching the Long Beach races last year. Actually, everybody
Yeah.
keep beaching themselves on that roundabout for some reason, but it was a good race.
It's gonna be wild this year. It's gonna be crazy.
I know. I just worry as the cars get longer that it's going to get more and more difficult. But
I think they'll be okay. They are bigger, but I think they'll be okay.
Amazing. Well, there we go. The final 2 bits of the quick fire, but I did give you a bit of a chance for these ones. Is your favorite piece of memorabilia that you managed to collect on your journey so far?
I have 5. So right before NASCAR ditched their 5 lug nuts, where they would go, I stole some lug nuts off the ground at a NASCAR race from one of the Hendrick cars. I think it was Kyle Larson's car. So I have 5 lug nuts sitting in my office, and then I have a champagne bottle from this race actually, where my buddy Jordan Taylor was P2, I think, that year. So he gave me his champagne bottle, and I have that in my office.
That's ridiculously cool, and that
Yeah.
is the perfect answer I wanted to something like, because a lot of people go medals or jerseys, which are incredible pieces of memorabilia in their own life. It's the little things I love when somebody tells me like, "Oh, I took the name tag above my door at the Commonwealth Games," and it's like little things that people pick up. But lug nuts from the last of the 5 bolts and a champagne bottle from PT doesn't get much better than that. Okay, and a piece of memorabilia you would love to add to your collection?
I would love to have one of my driver clients' helmets. I've actually seriously thought about doing a trade, like, hey, I'll shoot for you for 2 weekends or something, whatever the equivalent price of a helmet would be, to get them to give me a helmet to put in my office. So I need to put. I haven't actually asked anybody, but I'm fairly certain I can make it happen. But I just need to ask.
I agree. I'd love that. I think my brain would explode if I ended up with an Alan McNish helmet, and I don't think price would be an object. It is in terms of what I have, but in terms of what I'd be willing to pay, price is no object for something.
Yeah, I need to pick the right driver to ask. Like I would love to ask Jordan Taylor, or maybe one of my other good but better driver friends. I'd never get an F1 driver's helmet, but I'd love to get somebody's helmet to put in the office.
Yeah, just even I think I'd wear it. Just have it around. I'm running. I can't. There's only so many things you can hang on a wall with close friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Well, there we go. That was the quick fire, and there were some brilliant answers and lovely. I don't think you'll get any mean tweets about those. I think they're all very sensible.
I hope not. We'll see. Since we did say Twitter needs to go away, maybe we'll get one from Twitter.
Well, then we just won't listen to it because we don't pay attention to Twitter anyway. We'll be okay. So we're going to go right back to the start, Jamey. Obviously, you're on here as that. But what people might not know about you is you had a passion and an affiliation for horse racing in the very beginning. You were a jockey and a photographer of that. Steeplechase, I believe, was the specialty, was it? No?
Yep. I never rode in the Grand National, but I was what we call in America National Hunt. So I was riding steeplechase race horses for about 7 years, not professionally, but when I was in school and college a little bit. I rode 50 races and had 11 winners. So I wasn't terrible. I did win. I did beat some really nice horses and some nice jockeys, but I also was very lucky that I had a great support team behind me, with the trainer that I worked for, whose name is Arch Kingsley. So he was a national champion here, trainer and jockey himself. So he pretty much taught me everything I know, and it was an amazing experience. When I went to college, I was still riding a little bit, but I was also a collegiate swimmer for all 4 years. And I when I graduated from college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and I wasn't sure where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. Like, I had a degree in history and international politics. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, well, what do I do with a history degree? I have this passion for photography, but I don't know if I can make it a full-time living. Um, so I moved to England, and I rode in England for a little bit, and I lived up toward you, actually. I was in Leyburn and, um, you know, Middleham, which is the small, tiny town up on
Okay.
in the moors in the
Hmm.
North Yorkshire area. So I spent a lot of time just living there for almost 6 months, just kind of riding horses, getting paid cash under the table. The Queen never knew about it, so I never got taxed on anything. But I would get paid in just cash. This was in 2010. So yeah, I loved it. I spent tons of time just traveling all over England. Went to Ireland for a little bit to I spent a lot of
Hmm.
time in Cheltenham, little not even that much time in London, but I was really in these tiny little towns which are just horse communities and
Hmm.
working with the small yards that just have racing programs, and I was just the American lad that would jump on a horse and, get paid a little bit of money, and I owned a car. I loved it.
Happy days. That sounds like a very nice, like nice quintessential English life you managed to
It was great.
carve out. Was it?
I don't know if I could go back and do it again. Like, it was just a really special time in my life where I wasn't attached to anybody.
Yeah.
I wasn't married, so I didn't have any like I didn't have a job. I could just go do it, and it was great.
Wow. That sounds amazing. So, how did the initial horse racing like? Was it horses in the family? Obviously, you're a South Carolina guy.
Yeah, North
Yeah.
Carolina, but
Oh, North. Sorry.
I'm right on the border. Like, Charlotte is the city where I'm
Hmm.
from, and it's right on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina, so I can drive to South Carolina in 5 minutes. But yeah, horses have been always been in my family. My dad is a big horse racing fan. He's not just he was an amateur jockey when he was much younger.
Hmm.
And then even when I started riding race horses, he was still kind of dabbling a little bit as a jockey. Like, he would ride it. We rode against each other a couple times in a few races, but
Hmm.
it was always something that was just in the family. That my parents are both from Maryland, which is really big into horse country,
Hmm.
and in the racing community, the Maryland Grand National, which is a really famous race uh, for amateur riders, which is a steeplechase race. It would be like our Grand National, but for amateurs. And
Hmm.
so it was very cool, like, to have that growing up, to have that passion for horses in my family. My mom loves horses, but she never really rode that much. It was mainly my dad. So
Hmm.
we shared that together, that we would just go to races, and we would, travel a little bit for racing, and he was very supportive of my desire to be a jockey.
Hmm.
But I'm also not short. I'm 5 foot 11 inches, and
I
you
did
know,
think that when you said swimmer as well. I was like, those two body types
yeah,
don't really go hand in hand.
no, I'm built more like a swimmer than a jockey. But as with any jockey, it's not about the height; it's about the weight. So if you can make the weight,
Hmm.
then you can be as tall as you want. Like, I have a picture of me standing next to AP McCoy, who's, 16-time national hunt champion,
Yeah.
and he's like maybe a hair shorter than I am, but not a lot. So
Wow.
it was a cool time in my life just to have that passion for horses run very, very deep.
I know. I love that it got to take you around the world as well. And like you said, it helped you in the university, college lifestyle as well. Got you there. Your
For
collegiate
sure.
swimming also helped, and then, but like you said, just the life skills you would have picked up as well. Just getting to travel to England and sort of going, I'm just going to do this now. And like
It
you said, if the Queen never knows about it, we don't need to discuss tax. So.
I say this all the time, that, being a photographer and doing what I do isn't really about taking pictures. It's not about making pictures. It's honestly about who you meet, how you get along with them, the journey, really. It's just it's all about who you know. And having
Mhm.
those experiences, traveling all over the world and meeting different people and having a different life that most people will never lead, gave me life experiences that I'm very thankful for, that can't be created in any school or college. It just has to be lived, and that's something that I'm very thankful for. And I really try and encourage people to do that. It's like, yes, you can be the best photographer in the world, but you may not be a successful photographer because you can't talk to people, you can't relate to people, you
Mhm.
can't understand a different culture or lifestyle. So I can walk out the door and I can, find people to talk to from all over this planet. From there's Chinese mechanics, there's Chinese drivers, there's Japanese drivers, there's Japanese mechanics, there's Italians, there's Germans, there's Brits, there's Scots, there's Irish, there's Spaniards, Brazilians. I mean, you name it, and there's somebody out that door that's from somewhere in the world that's not the United States of America. And we all share a passion for car racing, and because we're all here, but it's not about the photography that got me here. It's a lot of the who you know along the way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think soft skills. Somebody said it to me. It's like hard skills get you in the door. Soft skills get you into the meetings.
100%, absolutely.
And I couldn't agree more. But so where did so you're doing this? You've managed to get yourself to England. You said you're doing your photography. That's always been a passion. Did you do any sort of formal education for the photography, or was this just kind of a case of you just sort of picked one up as you were going and you thought, I just have a love and affinity for this?
Yeah, I was given a pretty entry level DSLR camera for my 21st birthday in 2008. And I'm now 35, so it was quite a while ago. But it was pretty deep into the digital age. Like, I think digital cameras really became a real thing in the early 2000s. And so by the time I picked up a camera, they were very like complicated and were pretty technologically advanced. So it wasn't just like a simple DSLR like that was very expensive. It was affordable, and I just took to it really really quickly, and I found that it was something that I really enjoyed, being able to share my world and the things that I enjoyed with other people. And that's really what you boil photography down to, is it's all about just meeting interesting people and getting to share interesting things and share your perspective on whatever event it is, whether it's racing or horse racing or swimming. So in college, I just took my camera and I brought it to as many swim meets as I could, and I took pictures of my friends competing, and I worked a little bit for the college newspaper, and obviously I brought it to a lot of my horse racing events as well. So when I would ride a race, I would bring my camera with me, and the track security people aren't going to stop a jockey trying to walk back on the track because I'm already in my like boots and pants and like my flak vest that I've got. So they're not going to like stop me. I've got a credential and everything to go pretty much wherever I want to go. And I just happen to have a camera and I could just go out on track and take pictures of the horses and my other rider friends. And it just slowly kind of like you learn a lot as you go. It's a great thing. It's a great art form to learn because you can do it and learn through experience. So it's not something you have to go to school for. You can learn really quickly. Like it's an embarrassing story, but when I first got my first camera, I was sitting on my bed in my parents' house on over my birthday weekend, and there was a fan, and I'd loved Formula One for years and years and years before this, and I'd seen the pages of F1 racing, and I was like, there used to be a page or a section of F1 racing where they had big pictures, like it was called the parade spread, and it was a double page, big, we call it double truck in the media world. So it was a double truck, double page spread. And in that there was like this gigantic picture. It was always a beautiful picture, and it would have the camera settings in the corner with like a little blurb from the photographer. And I don't know, like there was one of them that was like 1/8000th at f5.6 or something, and I was like, wow, you can stop an F1 car, you can freeze an F1 car. And I'm sitting in my parents' bedroom and I'm looking up at the fan above me going around and around like this, and it's pretty dark in any room. It doesn't matter what room it is, unless you're pointing your camera at the sun, it's pretty dark. And so I like point my camera at the fan, and I like to put the settings on like 1/8000 f5.6, like, well, if it can stop an F1 car, it can definitely stop a fan. And I took a picture, and the picture was just black, like there's just nothing there. And I went on I don't even remember what it was. It was like a photography forum, but I went on a photography forum, and I was like, I took a picture of the fan in my bedroom, and it's just black. And I don't know why. Like, is something wrong with my camera? I don't understand. And somebody wrote back. They were like, well, like, what settings were you using? What aperture? And I was like, why? Why do you need to know? Like, I just used it. And it was really like it was like a kind of a light bulb moment where it's like, this isn't just pointed at something and like put the settings you want to use, like there's actually like kind of not math to it, but you have to experiment a little bit with understanding light. And it was really just trial and error. I've never taken any classes, or I've done one like 3 or 4 day workshop that I did with a sports photography group. Rich Clarkson, which he's like a very famous sports photographer from, he's very old. I don't even know if he's still alive anymore, but he ran this sports photography workshop, and I got, tons of experience and learning ability through that and with other sports photographers. But I've never taken any classes that had any kind of photography, anything. So it's all just trial and error, figure it out as you go. I'm still learning every day. I learn something every day.
Well, I love it when people think that, because a lot of people think in hobbies nowadays, like I have my friends that ask me about this, and they're like, well, where did you learn to do that? And I was like, I found out what software I needed, but before I bought this thing, I bought a horrible microphone off eBay or Amazon or something, and I was, when it comes and it doesn't even have English instructions for how to set up, you've
You're
bought
like, now
something.
what?
Yeah, and you somehow your voice sounds worse than if you actually just shouted into this computer hoping it would pick it up.
Yeah.
And then, but it's like there's so many things that are a process of trial and error, and like I think like what you said pretty much sums it up really lovely. If you really want to do it and you really enjoy it, you'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah, it's just you'll figure it out, and you've got no other choice other than to figure it out.
So hey, so sorry to interrupt the podcast. This is something I wanted to tell you about, and it's something I wanted to explain before I just go around throwing it everywhere, because this is something that was quite difficult for me to decide to do. It took a lot of deliberation and a lot of discussion with friends and family. I have now created an option where you can tip the podcast, or you can reward the podcast if you feel the podcast deserves it. There is an option down below where I went on the internet, I found this website that wants to reward content. Okay, forward it on now, because the reason you're here, the reason the listeners are here, what we want to hear, we all want to talk about cars. We want to talk about photographing cars. When was the first switch to motorsport, and when did you first go, you could take my car to the meet? Was it just as a fan and you were one of the many fans through the gates that are there with the camera, or was it like an accredited thing because you had that photography background?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of quickly transitioned from horse racing, and there was like a pretty big overlap. So when I was doing horse racing stuff, I wouldn't, not just riding, but I was taking my camera and I was meet photographers at the races. And I got asked to shoot the Kentucky Derby one year. I think it was 2012. I did the Breeders' Cup, which is the horse racing world championships that they usually host in Kentucky or California. And I covered that, and I met some photographers there. And one of them was like, well, so what's your deal? Like, I was 23 years old, I guess. And he was like, so what's your deal, kid? Like, what do you want?
That's pretty good going, though, from taking photographs of your fan in your 21st birthday to the Kentucky Derby Breeders' Cup weekend by 23.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But it felt to me like it felt like an unattainable goal to do car racing stuff. Like, horse racing, I was already in it. But car racing was, I don't know how I'm going to get there. And so I met a bunch of people along the way with the horse racing stuff, and just meeting those people, they gave me some advice, or, little bits here and there. But, I had done some internships with a newspaper in Charlotte and then another one in Kentucky. And from those newspapers, I had done a tiny bit of coverage of car racing stuff. Like it was dirt track racing in Kentucky or lawnmower racing in North Carolina. Just nothing serious. Like it was track days at a local track, like where, some guy was going around on his sport bike, or, some rich dude had his Ferrari 360 out. And that was, to me, that was like as close as I was ever going to get to Formula One or car racing in general. And it wasn't until I was given my opportunity to cover a little bit of NASCAR with Getty Images. So Getty Images is one of the biggest agencies in the world that covers not just car racing or anything, but sports and editorial. And they also have some of the best photographers on earth too. Like, you might not make the most money working for an agency, but some of the best photographers on the planet work with Getty Images. And I was able to work with them a handful of times on the NASCAR stuff with credentials. I covered I think my first race was the NASCAR truck race in Charlotte in 2011, which is Kimi Räikkönen's first truck race. So that was his first NASCAR race that he ever did during his sabbatical between Ferrari and Lotus, or after, I think it was
I think it was Lotus, was
Yeah,
it?
it was definitely he was on sabbatical, so he wasn't
Mhm.
like driving an F1, but he was like, I just want to do NASCAR, and I saw on the entry list that he was running in Charlotte, and Charlotte's my hometown. And I was like, great, this is amazing. So I just kind of cold called an agency in England. I sent them a Twitter DM actually, and I was like, "Hey, I'm in Charlotte, and Kimi Räikkönen is running the NASCAR race. Like, would you have any interest in having me cover it?" And they responded. They're like, "Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Actually, like, are you free? And what's your portfolio look like? Or like,
Mhm.
just all the basics." And so we ended up
Yeah.
making it work. They paid me not a ton of money, but it was enough at the time, and that was my foot in the door to car racing. And it was like really the stepping stone that I needed to say like, okay, this isn't just horse racing I can do. This isn't just my swimming buddies I can do. I
Mhm.
can maybe do a little bit more with this, but I still didn't know if I could make it professionally into something that I'm going to make work for real money to support a lifestyle of like, I don't want to work a second job. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Um, so it was still pretty daunting, but the car racing stuff, like it was a very slow build, but once I kind of got on that train, it started running pretty quickly.
Okay. So how did you manage that? You said that there was a lot of overlaps. How did you manage that first year or so when, like you said, you're like, oh, I don't know if this is a full-time thing or it might not be paying out at a full-time thing yet because of just the, as you said with the soft skills, but it depends on who you know to get you these gigs more than it depends on photography skill. But
Yeah,
how did that year look for you? Was there a lot of back and forth between the two sports and just picking up things where you could, or did you have to
yeah,
do a more traditional job so
I
you had
was
your weekends free?
I was very busy because I had a traditional job as well. I was selling alarm systems full time. I
Okay.
was a customer care representative, so when somebody's alarm would go off or not work properly, I was the guy that they would call and yell at. Um,
Always a
you know,
fun job.
Oh, it's horrible, but you know what? It teaches you a lot of people skills. I was also a
Yeah.
salesman as part of that, so you're not just taking the customer calls that like they hate their system and can't figure out how to work it, but also, like they need something else. They
Mhm.
need to upgrade their system, so you learn how to be a salesman, and you're selling a product. But I kind of quickly learned like this isn't just something I'm a product that I'm selling. I can kind of convert this to like selling my product, which is a picture or pictures or a coverage
Yeah.
of an event or whatever it is. And I was dealing with the horse stuff, and which was it had me busy, but it wasn't enough to even like really pay minimal amounts of bills. Like it was
Mhm.
not enough. And the horse racing stuff just was a lot of fun, but I never saw it as the career that I wanted to end up in. And the car racing wasn't enough either, but I was starting to dabble a little bit enough in car racing that it was starting to take away from the full-time job that I had too.
Mhm.
So I left my full-time job in 2014 to be a full-time photographer. When it reached that point of, I now have too much time in car racing and not enough time on the side of like having a real job, that
Mm.
was the hard part of like, I'm going to make this jump. I'm going to quit my job. This is when I need to do this. So yeah,
Wow.
it was really challenging and it was scary, but I think it very quickly made me realize like I'm in control of my destiny. I'm in control of my business. I'm not reporting to anybody other than myself. So all the success that I have or don't have, that's on me.
Mhm. And how did that first few months of the self-employment and I need to go out and find the work now, like it's not there in the office or at the center wherever you were. How was that in terms of the emotional ride as well as 'cause you said you get that rewarding factor of going, I am my own boss, I am this, but then all these external pressures that most work people don't have to deal with come in. How was that?
It was really challenging, but I'm a very motivated person in that like I when I want something, I'm gonna go make it happen. I'm gonna make this work because I don't have another choice. So
Mhm.
because I knew that my photography work had taken away from my day job side, I knew that
Mhm.
there was enough there that I could survive at least for a little bit. Um, but also I knew that I had some opportunities with a few different companies and brands and magazines. There was a magazine in Charlotte that I still work for to this day that they were offering me, more full-time basis, like regular stuff. And I wasn't going to get rich off of it, but I was going to make enough to survive, to feed myself, to have an apartment and a car, and
Mhm.
do all the things that I wanted to do as a 20-something-year-old guy, travel and go on vacations and all that. So I could do all that and not have to rely on family to help support me, or like be the catch net that I knew I didn't need. So it really was just about going to find clients, meeting people, go to every event or every race was an opportunity to get another client, to meet somebody else, to find something that might be a better opportunity in a week or a month or a year or 5 years. And all of those things, just it really it was a slow build, like any business would be. It was a slow build, but it's just putting the foundation for success. Like you don't build the Empire State Building in a night. You do it over time in small pieces to get
Mhm.
what you see today.
I love that, and like you said, it wasn't ever to make you rich financially, but it made you rich in a time aspect and a passion aspect.
For sure. I wouldn't.
As cringy as that sounds, that is the truth.
Yeah, but I couldn't
Mhm.
imagine going back to working for a company, working for somebody where I'm
Mhm.
just punching a clock, or doing it because they tell me to, or this is how much you're going to get paid just because we say you're going to get paid this much. If I have a bad year financially this year,
Mhm.
like it's because I chose to have less clients, to be more at home more, or
Yeah.
just not doing my job properly. But it's not anybody's problem but mine.
I find that really inspiring. I love it when I hear stories about people who just bet on themselves and they just think, okay, so I'm going to make this in this situation. The only thing that lets this down is me, because I think it takes a real spur of guts, but it also shows a real commitment and dedication. I think that probably would have spoken to a lot of your clients as well when they went, this guy he's clearly trusted himself enough in his skill, in his personality, in his attitude.
Yeah, and
So like that, and that transfers through to them when
I
they see
think
it.
it did, because especially when I was younger, I think they
Mhm.
could see like that motivation. But I'm also really aware that this job and the type of job that I have isn't for everybody. Like not everybody that tries to be a photographer, tries to be a motorsport photographer, is going to be a successful photographer, a successful motorsport photographer, because of the soft skills stuff that you talked about.
Mhm.
And that's something that I'm aware of, that you can't just assume that you take a pretty picture and it's going to be given to you, that it's just easy from that point on. It's the hard stuff after that that I'm very aware that, like, I'm not the most talented photographer even in this room right now.
Mhm.
um but I know that I'm going to work harder than most people are.
Mhm. And that takes a very brave thing to say in a media center where I know there's other people in that room.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I mean, the guy that's sitting across from me for race week is one of the best photographers on the planet. And the guy that's sitting next to him is like equally as talented. And there's 20 people in here that you could just look at them and I would say I would kill to have their talent.
mhm.
Um, and maybe they would say the same about me, but I know that I'm jealous of their ability and their talent. And it's we all have our strengths, and you have to play to it.
Mhm. Well, talking there, we're going to get into the present day stuff now. Talk about the Rolex 24. Obviously, you've just finished the Roar. Um, how does a race week look like for you? You talk about all these people around you. Like, can you sort of do not don't give us the insider tips and tricks of every detail secret, but how's from this morning when you woke up on the Monday? We'll exclude. So you've done test and done practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through to Sunday at 4 p.m. or whenever they decide to finish the day. So.
Yeah, so today we are just kind of here around the track, just doing a few bits and bobs and small jobs that I've got for a couple clients.
Mhm.
Lamborghini has me working a little bit on some stuff here today, and then tomorrow we actually I will be taking the day off completely, so I'm going to go down to Florida and see my sister, or to Palm Beach, which is south of us, about
Mhm.
2 hours south of us. So I'll go take the day off completely tomorrow. But then Wednesday, we are all back here. All the mechanics will be here tomorrow anyway. They're doing stuff today. Tomorrow they'll be here Wednesday doing the same. But then Wednesday is really when race week really officially starts. We'll have
Mhm.
a full field group photo, so all 61 cars will be lined up. There will be, like, I have 2 team photos. So they're going to roll their cars out somewhere, and we're going to take a picture of the team and all the mechanics and the drivers, and like just kind of it's kind of like a class photo, a memorabilia for them to say, we were here, we did this, we're going to do it, we're going to kick its ass, that kind of thing. And then Thursday, we also have a practice session, I think, on Wednesday too, for another support series. So we will have cars on track on Wednesday. So Wednesday is like definitely not an off day. It'll probably be a 10 to 12 hour day. And then Thursday we really seriously start. So we've got practice sessions all day long, in various short stints for various. I'm covering 2 different series this weekend. So we'll have practice sessions for both of those series on Thursday. Same thing again on Friday. There's a race for one of the support series. So I kind of use that race as a rehearsal for the Rolex race. So I'll go, try out my different spots for maybe a start shot or where I want to go at a certain time of day, do some different stuff and figure out maybe a game plan for the big race, which starts on Saturday. And then Saturday morning, we'll try and get to bed early on Friday. And then Saturday morning, wake up, get breakfast. And the race starts at 1:40, but there will be a lot happening before that. We'll have driver pit stop practice. So they'll be in the garages doing practice pit stops. So they'll try and figure out the best timing for who goes where and who does what. But it's really good for photography because you can get nice candids of them talking together with their helmets on. You can get just a lot of cool stuff. And then there's lots of fans walking around, and it really, even though the race starts at 1:40 in the afternoon, we'll be here in the morning, like usually 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's a long day. And then once the race starts, it's all just full on noise for 24 hours. It's deafening, it's exciting. You get sunrise or sunset, and then you get a full 13 and a half hours of darkness, and then sunrise the following morning. And then we keep going all the way to 1:40. And then after that, hopefully we'll have maybe a handful of my clients do something special. Maybe they'll win, maybe they'll be on the podium.
No pressure, guys. Just
exactly. So we'll see what, you never know. But the weather looks really nice right now. You never know with the weather in Florida this time of year. It could be horrible and raining and cold, or it can just be cold, or it can be beautiful. And right now the weather forecast is beautiful. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. But it's a really long week. Like for race day, Saturday and Sunday, I'll probably be awake for somewhere between 36 to 39 hours, like straight without a stop or break. And by the end of it, your body, like I said, I'm 35, so I'm not old, but I've done this a few times. And by the end of race week, you can tell that your back is hurting, your legs are hurting, your feet are like no more, like your head hurts. You're dehydrated because there's just not enough water in the world to hydrate you. It is really seriously,
especially if it's sunny Florida. That's a lot different to Brands Hatch in England or Knock Hill.
Exactly. It's really brutal. So it's fun though. It's really a challenge. I love 24-hour races. It's not just a challenge for the drivers and the teams. It's a challenge for the photographers and the PR people, and the videographers. It's a lot on all of us to try and just survive it.
Trust me, I can speak as a very passionate endurance racing fan. We appreciate everything you do because, I mean, I think when we first started talking, I actually sent you a DM of one of your photos of the Toyota I turned into my screensaver because it was so cool.
Cool, I love it.
I probably should pay you for that photo at some point.
That's why I do Wallpaper Wednesday.
Good. I feel really bad that I hadn't given you cash. But no, I love your work. And so talking about how, because you've effectively just told us you do my full working week in non-stop back to back, which is ludicrous. Everybody talks about how the cars do a full F1 season in a day.
Yep.
But like you said, everybody there is working non-stop. Radio Le Mans is a great example. Paul Truswell, when he was a lot healthier, he never stopped. He was famous for doing 24 front to back.
Yep.
What is some advice you'd give to people of other photographers, other people at the track, of non-photography equipment that is essential? Like either if it's insoles, a specific type of bag.
Yeah, really comfortable shoes is crucial.
Hmm.
I learned so one of the things that I learned back earlier in my career is that if your feet are hurting, you're hurting.
Hmm.
It is a horrible experience to have your feet be hurting, and if you're on your feet a lot, so I personally choose to wear hiking boots during
Oh,
endurance races because hiking boots are made to be walked in, to be stood in. They're meant to be comfortable, and that is what I've kind of always done. They may not be the most fashionable thing to wear. I'm not going to win any fashion awards, but I will get to the end of the race. My feet will hurt, but you're not going to not hurt after walking, 15
yeah.
miles or whatever, 20 miles. You're going to hurt. So, but to be as comfortable as you can, I wouldn't want to walk 15 miles in tennis shoes either. So, uh, yeah, it's something that I've always had like a really strong like I got to get my
Hmm.
feet feeling good. So having that and then just lots of water and um, bananas and granola bars that are good to keep your energy levels going. But yeah, just trying to like not go too hard in the beginning of the race either. It's really hard. You got to pace yourself a little bit because
Hmm.
it's easy to just go like, I feel good, I feel great, I'm awake. Like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, yeah, of course you're awake. Like, I don't need a coffee yet. It's not till you get till 3, 4, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. where you're like, huh, okay, now I'm feeling it. Um, and then it's
Very,
horrible.
very understandable.
By like 9, 10, or 11 a.m. on Sunday, I'm like closer to death than I am alive. Yeah,
That's very understandable and a
yeah.
fair assessment. Okay, so what I find really interesting is obviously racing, especially the World Endurance Championship, IMSA, F1. They have a tradition of not being in the same spot every 2 weeks. They like to take their circus on the road. What's travel like for a photographer showing all these things? How often do you think you fly a calendar year or a racing calendar year?
Last year I didn't count my flights, but it would have been a
Hmm.
lot. I'm diamond status with Delta, so I've got a lot of miles. I did count my flights one year recently. I think it was like 2019. I think I did 90 flights.
Wow.
Uh, and then last year, I think I was on the road 176 days out of the year. So it's almost half the year that I'm gone, and it is really hard. I think people don't. There's a section of Twitter, especially, or some of the other social media apps, but I've seen it a lot on Twitter that they're like, oh, you get to travel the world and you get to see all these amazing places and travel's great. And you're like, these people are thinking like of going to the Bahamas or going to Barbados or going to, the Maldives or
Yeah.
wherever. Like, that's not the travel we're doing. We're going to like places that don't have the infrastructure to do tourism the way you think you do. And even if
Yeah.
they do have that, you're not going to the Burj Khalifa or, the Empire State Building or whatever, stupid tourist trap is in that area. You're going to from the airport to a hotel to a racetrack, and then
Yeah.
airport, hotel, racetrack,
Back.
airport, hotel,
Yeah.
racetrack, airport, hotel, racetrack, and in different time zones. And you're still having to use your creativity. So it's not just like you're not just physically using your hands or building
Yeah.
something. The mechanics have a very, very difficult job, and they have a very intense travel schedule, but using your brain on top of that is really difficult. So, when you are
Mhm.
jet lagged or when you're just physically run down and you've just been on the long, like I've noticed it a lot after I've been on a long streak of travel, like almost 3, 4, 5, 6 weekends in a row type thing.
Mhm.
It starts really wearing on you where your brain is just you're not as sharp as you would hope you would be being fresh and rested.
Mhm.
Um,
I,
and
I
that's
get I get what you mean there because obviously mechanics have like we say building a super hypercar LMDH whatever you want to call it is not exactly like putting Lego blocks together, but
no, it's very complicated.
you cannot take the same photograph at every track because
Right.
otherwise it becomes
Yeah,
that car. So yeah, I get what you mean. It's a different level of high intense focus and creativity. Yeah.
yeah, and that's really what I struggle to help people understand is like they're like, well, you're going to like this weekend I'm in Florida. I'm home for a week and then I go to Quebec and then I'm home for a week
Mhm.
and then I go to Bahrain and I'm home for a week and then I go to Sebring, Florida for World Endurance Championship. and it's kind of like all over the map, and that's just, I don't even do F1. Like, you're all over the place. So, and you're not staying in hotels that are, this isn't the Ritz-Carlton. There are photographers that do that, but that's not most of us, and that's not 99.9% of us. That's a very small group of people that
That's
can
not
afford.
margin efficient either, that.
No. So, we're staying in crummy hotels far away from the track, and you're just not, it's not glamorous. It's not a glamorous lifestyle. Yes, you get to work around amazing cars, like stuff that most people only see in Forza Horizon or Gran Turismo or the Formula One game. Like, I get to see that stuff in real life, touch it, play with it, take pictures of it, meet the drivers. Like, I'm not saying at all that it isn't special, because it is, but there's this whole other side that nobody sees that is just seriously hard work and not fun. To get to Bahrain, or to get to Singapore, to get to Japan, to get to Australia or England or Las Vegas or Miami or wherever, China, wherever it is, it is really, really challenging. And on top of that, a lot of us who are, above a certain age, a lot of us have children and families and wives and dogs and just stuff, and you miss a lot of that stuff at home. Like, I FaceTime with my kids, and you know, I'm very aware that I'm their father, and I'm not there at home to give them a hug or to tell them I love them and to say goodnight and brush their teeth and do all those things that most dads get to do every single night. So when I am home, I try and be as present as I can. I try and involve them with what I'm doing. I'll send them pictures or videos of myself. Um, like, I was actually really cool 2 years ago. What was it? Yeah, last year. So during 2022 season, no, 2021 season. So my son was having dinner at home with my wife, and I was doing qualifying for IMSA WeatherTech at Watkins Glen, and Kevin Magnuson was a client of mine. So he was driving with Renger van der Zande in the Chip Ganassi Cadillac, and Kevin Magnuson is about to qualify the car, and he's just sitting in pit lane, and Kevin and I became friends, and I literally just handed him my phone while I'm FaceTiming with my son on before qualifying starts, and I just handed my phone to Kevin, and he's holding the phone like FaceTiming with my son, like, "Hey James, how's it going?" I was like, "James, this is my friend Mr. Kevin," and James was loves race cars, and thinks the drivers are really cool. I mean, he's only 4 years old, but he thinks they're really cool. And in my head, I'm like, my son is FaceTiming with an F1 driver right now. And it's just stuff like that.
You're more excited than the son is at this point.
Yeah,
this is the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, and my wife took a picture, a little FaceTime screen grab of it, and it's stuff like that I try and involve them, but it's hard to be away from home, to not have those moments with my kids and my wife. To be gone that much is very difficult, and people, the couch potatoes on Twitter just say well, suck it up, Buttercup. You're at the racetrack with these cars and drivers getting paid to do what most of us pay to do. And it's like, I'm aware, but it is still hard. It is still a job. There's days you don't want to do it. If I made you go to every single F1 session for multiple years in a row, that you might be like, I've seen enough F1 cars for a minute.
Oh, Lewis won again. How nice.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the stuff like that people don't understand, that it doesn't matter how good a job is, there's still hard days on a job. Doesn't matter what it is.
Exactly. There's bad days and good days and everything as well. It's like you say,
everybody's got them.
I know. Look at professional football players. They live the dream, but they've got to do obscene hours. And I think somebody worked it out. Pick the difficult, isn't it? Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think it works out. He has an 85-hour work week or something like that. So
I mean,
you get obscene amounts of money, but that's 3 times somebody's normal work week.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm working the average work week in
just on the weekends.
Yeah, on Saturday and Sunday, and that doesn't include the 16 to 18-hour days that I'm doing, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday too. And that's on top of the 12, 13-hour, 14-hour days we worked this past Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's caveats to everything. I think the problem is the same with all social media, isn't it? It's people see the really good bits and they think, oh, that's the whole thing.
They see it's the very I've
Yeah.
said it before, it's the iceberg mentality where
Yeah.
you have like they see what's above the waterline where it's like, oh, it
Mhm.
must be this is so great. And what you don't see is the massive amounts of hard work and bullshit that you're dealing with below the waterline
Yeah.
that, it doesn't matter how awesome the cars are, what place I am. Like it's hard to complain about your life when you're in Monaco, but that doesn't mean that my wife can't be having a hard time at home with the
Mhm.
kids, or I'm feeling homesick and I'm missing a birthday. I missed my grandmother's funeral. I've missed my best friend's wedding, two best friends' wedding.
Yeah.
So you miss a lot of stuff because it's like, okay, well, this is my job. I can't just stop doing my job. I can't not get, like, I have to make money, but also I have contractual obligations to clients. So
Yeah. But it comes back to what we say about being self-employed, doesn't it? It's like nobody gives you holiday pay when you're self-employed.
nope. and unlike you guys, we don't have healthcare paid for free. So like,
True,
my
exactly. Yeah.
healthcare is almost $1,200 a month. So just on top of all the other stuff, you gotta pay for things. So
Mhm.
all those things, it just everything. Life has a catch to it. Doesn't matter what job it is. Everybody has a catch.
I genuinely might get that put up somewhere. I think at the end of the day, life has a catch. I think it was what nice. I had a nice thing wrote down here later, but I want to bring that up now because what it sounds like is there's a big understanding in the community that you have as your professional photographers, your racing photographers. You spoke about the guys across the desk from you. What's the community like as it? Is it like a very wholesome thing? I'm not saying you guys will just go out and go take the photo here, you'll get the best photo, and that will cost me my shillings for the week. But like, is it quite a close knit group? Like, do you have friends in the space that you see regularly at the meet?
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're all a traveling family.
Mhm.
I mean, with IMSA WeatherTech, we do 11 races a year. With Formula One, it's 21, but I don't do all 20, or I guess it'll be
Mhm.
23 this year. So 23 races. You get to know if you spent 23 weeks a year with somebody, you'd get to know them fairly well,
Yeah,
like
half a year, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
like
6 months.
family. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the photography community is great. Like we are all, you know, it's kind of like school. It's like any group of people that spend a fair amount of time together. There's people that you dislike, there's people that you can tolerate, and there's people you really like. And you have like friend groups, not necessarily like cliques, but you have people that you gravitate toward that I respect their work. There's people that
Yeah.
we just don't have that much in common, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But it's not just there is a really good camaraderie in most of these media centers in the various series. Some series are better than others. Like
Mhm.
I've always struggled to feel like welcome in some series just because I think that some of them are just they have too much they have too much of a work like schedule. It's the season is
Okay.
too long. So yeah, it's just I mean you can probably deduce what series that would be, but it's just too much, and so they just kind of get a little bit burnt out, and so it just affects people's moods and ability to relate to other people and get along with other people. But
Mhm.
most series, it's great. We go to dinners together. There's banter, like we're making fun of each other in fun, friendly ways. We're poking at each other. We're like
I
photography.
love that. I love
We're
that.
we're talking photography shit talk.
Mhm.
Like you got any sharp from that session? You just phoning it in. Like somebody will leave at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, like 20 minutes after the session's over, and we're all like, "Wow, working half days, huh?" So it's
Only the 60-hour work week clocked in. This
yeah,
guy's clearly got somewhere to be.
exactly, but it's fun. Like there's nobody that just really doesn't like each other.
Mhm.
We're not gonna like have a fist fight that breaks out. But yeah,
I always
we're
wondered what
all
goes on in that media center. I imagine there's a boxing ring just off center of that camera.
yeah. But then you also have the people outside too. You have the PR, you have the mechanics, you have the
Mhm.
drivers. There's just so many different roles in racing, and you spend enough time in racing that it's not just the photographers that we're friends with. It's great. Like there's a big family, and there's people that I could rely on for anything. If I was having a tough day, just just needed somebody to talk to, there's 100 people out that door that would sit and talk about anything because I've known them for years, 10 years.
Mhm. I love that. I think that's really important to have as well in a community. Not that because you're traditionally, it's not the case, but traditionally photography is seen as like a very solo thing, especially a self-employed photographer. But it's nice that there is that sort of togetherness that you can call upon, because like you said, there is very lonely aspects to your job.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Uh,
sucks when you have to have dinner alone by yourself in a city that you don't know anybody. Like, it's not
mhm,
fun, and it does happen a lot. Like, it's just part of traveling.
mhm.
But it's nice when you have friends. It's nice when you have people that you can just connect with. So yeah, it's good.
I love that. I think that's really, really important, and I think that must make your job so much more enjoyable. One thing you spoke about that you spoke about when we were talking about your son FaceTime in K-Mac, and you said he's your client. I love to hear how these interactions that I'm not going to say give away your sales techniques, because obviously that's a trick of the trade you've learned with the soft skills that we discussed. But how does it come about when you've then got drivers? Because it's different. You sort of showing your wares, going, I took this many photos at the race weekend. I was paid to be here by somebody, but I also have these for sale. Would you like to buy any of them or rights to them? How does it start the other way around when clients are coming to you saying, I want you to be here at this race to take these photos at these times?
Yeah, I mean, it's just meeting people. I mean,
Mhm,
Kevin was introduced to me by his teammate at the time, and his teammate is somebody that I've known for a long time, and he was teammates with another friend, and it just, you meet people, and social media has been such a big part of how I've grown my business, because you can put a picture on social media
mhm,
and that gets shared, or you could tag a driver, and it can quickly, like, kind of blossom from like a picture you post to a lot of people see it, and the right people see
mhm,
it. It's not just about like, oh, I got 12,000 likes on this, and 1.5 million people saw it. It's like, okay, great, but like, what did you get out of that?
yeah.
And the what did you get out of that is the important part. Is like, did it go to the right people? Did it get seen by a bunch of 14-year-olds in India or China, or did it get
Mhm,
seen by like the people that make decisions about hiring photographers on a race team? Um,
mhm,
so it's really just the people that you meet along the way that introduce you, just building those relationships. I could walk out the door and talk to photographers, videographers, drivers, mechanics, and all of those people can introduce you to somebody, and that's how all of it has come about. It's really not, I'm not that talented with a camera, but I can talk to most people in this paddock.
Well, you say you're not talented with a camera, but I beg to disagree. This is how much I love your work, because we've not agreed something pre-planned. This is not me just trying to be a suck up. I genuinely love your work. So I'd actually quite like to plug your workshop. Can you tell us a bit more about your workshops? And not only that, but you also sell your photos as well. You can sell them as prints, and you can do that. Can you just tell us a bit more about where people can go and find those?
Yeah, the workshops is really fun. It's something that I started doing with my colleague Drew Gibson,
Mhm,
and it really just came from the sheer number of DMs that both of us got in our social media accounts, just from people that want to know more about how we do what we do and
mhm,
how we got to where we are, which is a lot of fun, to be able to share that side of our world. But it does get, not tiring. Tiring's not the right word, but it's like, okay, I've answered this 100 times
yeah.
this week. Like, how do you get credentials to a race? At a certain point, we both kind of looked at each other. It's like, we should help educate people. We should teach people. We should help grow the industry in a healthy way.
Mhm,
Um, so we started the paddock focus workshops that we basically just host on Zoom when we both can find time, which is a lot of fun. That he's in the Middle East, or he's based in England, but he travels with the World Endurance Championship,
mhm.
and I do IMSA and a little bit of F1 and whatever else. And so finding times to do it is really challenging. But you know, 4 to 5 times a year, we'll get together on Zoom, and we'll host a specific workshop series about shooting at night, or how to work, like, do workflow, or how to edit pictures better for motorsport photography, or just the first one we did was how to become a motorsport photographer. So it's been really fun to be able to have a way to teach people. So when I do get one of those DMs, I can say like, "Hey, thanks for the DM. I really appreciate it."
I've actually covered this already in detail. Go check it
Yeah,
out.
I
Yeah.
covered it in detail, and I could give you 3 sentences here in this DM, but, like, how much are you gonna get out of that?
Yeah.
Or you can listen to me and Drew talk for 3 hours about it. And some people are really receptive of that. They're like, wow, that's, it's great information. And then other people are like, I am not going to pay for you to tell me this. I just want you to tell me. I want you to give me the credential to go shoot Monaco because I don't want to work for it. So we get a little bit of both, but the people that really want to learn, we do try and give them something that they can actually use and utilize, and we've had really good feedback from it. It's been a lot of fun to do, so we're going to keep doing it as long as we can, but I've really enjoyed teaching. I've taught a lot of photography workshops before we started this. I've done a lot of seminars and podcasts and, just things. So I enjoy it, though.
Good. And then, not to make you plug more of your own stuff, but I feel it has a bit more credibility coming from yourself. You also sell prints as well. So, like, how did you decide that come about? Was this when you thought? Because I imagine that's quite a tough decision to go. I'm actually going to start putting a price on my work, not only as the photographer there, but I want to sell this stuff as well.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular bits of your product that has always inspired you and you've thought some of these pictures I'm really, really proud of?
Yeah, it's hard because some of the stuff that I'm really, really proud of just wouldn't maybe make that nice of a print. Like,
okay,
if you go on my Instagram, there's stuff where I've done like a ridiculously slow shutter speed, but it might not be the picture you want hanging on your wall. But also, I'm very aware that, like, as much as I love selling prints, not everybody wants a print of Lewis Hamilton in their living room. So it's kind of a niche audience to be able to sell prints to people that want a physical picture to be hung on a wall or wherever it is. But I've really enjoyed being able to do that, to take a picture, because it, back in the day, a film picture was like a physical thing. It came out of the camera, it was developed, and you held it in your hands. And now all of our pictures, like most of, like, I would say, like, maybe a tenth of a tenth of a tenth of a tenth make it ever even to any kind of like physical print form. The rest of it just exists in a digital world, be it Instagram or Twitter or on a team's website. It never gets printed or seen anywhere outside of the internet. So to have something where you can physically hold your pictures is really cool, and it makes you look at your work in a different way, a more critical way. Stuff that like is sharp on Instagram, you like, people look at it, you're like, this is amazing, and then you print it out, you're like, it's not that sharp, or maybe it could be better in this way, or it needs something like this, and you look at it very differently. But I do enjoy selling prints. Unfortunately, because of licensing and legal stuff, we can't sell prints from every event that I go to. But some of it we can, some of it we can't. But it's not like how I make a living, but it is it just helps cover the groceries for something.
It's fun money is what I call it when I make extra cash.
I can take myself for a beer.
But I mean, I love some of your work. I'm a sucker for a 4GT, and I know you have that one of the newer, the red against the classic black and with the white stripe.
That was like one of the coolest shoots I've ever done. To be able to, we did a car-to-car session. That shot was a drone shot, but we did a car-to-car session, and the 4GT is like the original Le Mans winner, and I think it's worth, like, it's insured for 25 million, is what they told me.
And they still bring them out for the classics every year.
Oh yeah, and like he was driving it around, on the racetrack, and it was crazy.
Did you see the guy that? Did you see the guy that set fire to the bread lorry?
Yes. Yeah.
I was there and I saw it on the screen and I was like, oh, when something just looks expensive.
Yeah, but it's cool to, like, I love shooting classic race cars and classics. I don't get to do it as much as I'd like, but some of the F1 Clienti events that I've been able to do with the old F1 cars from that Ferrari ran in the 90s and 2000s, like the Schumacher cars and Mansell cars and Alan Prost cars, like, you sit there and you look at these things and it's really special.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like I said, I love your work.
Thank you.
Listeners, I really do encourage you to go get yourself a print, get one. I am currently hosting because the chairman of St. Mirren Football Club came on my podcast, so I made an agreement to have a St. Mirren shirt on for every episode of this season. But as you can see, there's a lot of blue walls, so I might have to see what I can do about getting a print up there, because I've got, what I still need to do is I've actually got an Aston Martin flag from one of my first Le Mans races.
Cool.
So I need to get that up here at some point as well.
That's awesome.
So, I've got so much memorabilia that I never wear. I used to be a sucker for Paynos. I think I have like 18 Paynos shirts, and I was only like 3 at the time, so I grew out of them almost instantly. So.
Oh wow, that's cool though. So what year was your first Le Mans?
I was born in '96. My first year was '99.
Wow, so you're 3.
Yeah. The old man is a big fan. I'm 1 away from 20 at the age of 26.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
My first was 2015, so I'm a little bit,
Wow.
yeah, not quite as many.
I'll show you. I reckon you've probably actually been more in the no sports than me, though, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, it's 20. I was working with Nissan in 2015, so that.
Oh, is that when they went back with the prototype car?
Yeah, that horrific thing.
the red arrow.
They had 3 of them, and it was cool to be working with an LMP1 team, and it was cool to be working with just at the race. Like, it was very special, but
yeah,
the car wasn't much.
No, it kind of got left behind by the rest.
Yeah,
I felt really bad for them because they really amped up that return as well, and it just didn't compete.
Yeah, it didn't live up to the hype.
I remember they had all the hype for Sebring, and I think it was all pretty much like, I would just stop talking about that by the time Le Mans came around.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Oh, well, unfortunately for me, because I could sit here and talk to you all night, we're nearly out of here, but I just have a few kind of similar to the quickfire questions, but they might have a bit more behind them. First of all, is there any sort of, I always like to ask this because I think it's always, and as you said, you clearly do your workshops, it's always important to pass on useful knowledge, because especially in like the Twitter sphere, there's so much that can get retweets, and it's, you read it and you're like, what a crock of shit, like, who just told you to do that? Is there any like a little tip that you wish someone had told you when you were younger or first getting started that you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, just like put your camera down and use your eyes, and then look around and just find stuff that's interesting. Like, it doesn't have to be a car on a racetrack to be interesting. It can be anything. But also, like, shooting more. Like, I feel like I didn't shoot enough pictures when I first started to be able to, like, that's how you learn, is you just, one picture isn't enough. Like, it's not film. You don't have to worry about developing this roll of film anymore. So when people send me a picture, it's like, okay, well, you sent me the one, but like, that's not the right one. Like, do a burst and you get 3 or 4. Even if your camera is like the most basic model camera, it'll still probably do 3 or 4 frames per second at this point. So where's the other 3 or 4? Like, let's see those and pick the right one. So just shoot more and just put your camera down and use your eyes. That was one of the best things I heard from a photo editor I worked with, is to be able to just see the world differently if you kind of put your camera down and you just look with your eyes.
Wow, that's I love those things, because that's like, it's such a simple thing of like, actually look at what you're going to take a photograph of, but like you said, until somebody says it to you, you think, oh, how did I miss that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so another one.
I still have to tell myself that all the time.
Okay, so another, how many photos do you reckon you will take between the Roar for the 24 and Sunday 7 p.m. when all the victory photos are done? How many photos do you reckon you'll take?
Probably like 40 to 50,000.
Christ.
Yeah.
Do you have to carry a massive hard drive on your back just to get all those?
No, I mean, my laptop's hard drive is 2 terabytes, so I should be okay. And I've got a little like 2 terabyte extra hard drive, but yeah, it's a lot of pictures now. But I'm also very thankful that I'm taking a lot of pictures because I have too many clients. I've kind of overloaded myself, which is great. It's a great problem to have. It's just, it's a, first world problems are still problems. So it's a problem to have that I'll figure it out, but I'm taking a lot of pictures because at this point I'm covering like half the field. So
yeah. I bet you're praying for the start of the race when everybody's close together. I at least now have a minute.
What I'm actually praying for is the ones that are paying the least to like crash or make sure the driver's okay, but like the car is no longer operable, so we're just gonna put it back in the garage and we'll just like check that one off. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm still getting paid, but you're done.
Yeah, done. Amazing. And then we spoke about your favorite track of Macau. Is that your favorite track to shoot at as well as your favorite track to visit, or is there a track that you love the shots you get because you get unique viewing spots that you never don't get around the world? Like I know, for example, like the corkscrew at Laguna Seca is a pretty unique corner. So
Yeah, Monaco is pretty special. I love Daytona. I love Sebring. I mean, Daytona is really special because there's a spot that I love going at night of around 3 or 4 a.m. where it's just pitch black and it's like kind of at the exit of the last part of the banking before they come back toward the grandstand side toward start
okay.
finish. And you know, in the middle of the night where the infield fans are asleep or just kind of chilled out a little bit, but it's still like the kind of the not the doldrums of the race, but it's just really eerily peaceful.
Mhm.
And especially when you get like a safety car restart, like they'll have an accident and all the cars will bunch up and then the safety car will release them. And that first lap when they come back by is just so aggressive and angry and the noise is just tremendous. Like once you kind of settle back into the single file, like,
Yeah.
you know, there's a car going past you every 3 or 4 seconds, but that first like time that they come back by you again, where all the prototypes are bunched up and they're all sparking and the cars are like weaving in and out past each other, and it's like it's 4 a.m. guys, like calm down. We still have like 12 hours to go, so it's that kind of stuff that I do love Daytona. It's pretty cool.
Wow. And then is there, we spoke a lot obviously about Ford GT being the original Le Mans winner for many people. Is there a favorite car that you've ever sort of photographed or got to photograph?
Yeah, that would be the Ford was pretty special. Another one. I mean, like I said, I think the Schumacher cars that Ferrari still runs. You know, you stand in the garage at these Ferrari Clienti events, and they still send shivers down my spine when they start it up because it takes a whole team of people. There's like there's mechanics running around the garage, and this is like not even an active Formula One race team. These are just mechanics that are working on the old cars, and there's 5 or 6 guys lined up with laptops, and they're all looking at the oil pressures and stuff. And there's one guy sitting in the cockpit, and they do this like the little
Yeah.
there's a guy sitting
Let's
behind
go.
the
Yeah.
car. There's a guy sitting behind the car with the crank. I don't even know how it necessarily, but they don't have a push to start ignition. So there's a guy sitting behind the car that'll start the car, and he's got this rod shoved up the car's butt, basically, and into the gearbox to start it. And the guy will sit in there and just give it the spin, and then he'll like stop and give it the spin, and you can feel this like the energy building, and then the thing just goes. It just explodes.
Yeah.
It just explodes is the only way I can describe it, and it's wild. It's just so cool.
Wow. Well, in that case, the only thing we have to finish up here before I can let you get on your day and finish off your Monday before you get to enjoy your one day off this week is you have 3 songs to get the photography community ready. You might be doing this on Sunday night when you're all celebrating, getting the chance to go to bed. What 3 songs would you pick and why?
The Chain by Fleetwood Mac, because it's the classic F1 song. I love that song. I don't know. I'm a big Jimmy Buffett fan too. I kind of get chilled out with some Jimmy Buffett music, and like Collective Soul. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a good one. That Collective Soul is like a great rock band type music. I'm not great at song titles, but those 3 would probably be my jams.
There you go. Collective Soul, Jimmy Buffett, and The Chain by Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good evening to me. Sounds like a good evening to me. Jamey, this has been an absolute pleasure. Obviously, Jamey Price photo for the YouTube listeners is evidently in front of us. But Jamey Price photo is where you can find him on most social media platforms. All his links to all his places, including his website where you can get it by prints and the workshop, will be in the description down below. Be there for everybody. All I need you guys to do as amazing, incredible listeners is like, share, follow, retweet, whichever social platform you're on. Do whatever promotes that because it helps me allows me to get brilliant guests on like Jamey, like we've had so far. It's going to happen all again next week. There's going to be another incredible episode. I'll see you then. Thank you guys very, very much. Goodbye.